Welcome to our December story. It's December. We're all the way to the end of the year.
We've made it. Oh.
We've made it. It's looking fairly Christmassy in the Timmins house, I have to say.
Which is pretty unusual. We usually only do things on Christmas Eve, but this year, because it's going to be such a quiet Christmas, well, right, I'm going to, start putting something colourful up. And I've just done it this afternoon for Storytime because, yeah.
It looks good. When I first saw your red, I thought you'd done like a red curtain, red carpet kind of thing for our on stage idea.
Yeah.
But
Good.
You can see in my background a few masks, and I don't know if you can see those. I've got
I can see those.
a few props and bits behind.
We got masks too. Look.
Oh, you do too. Yeah. Very good.
And bells.
Ooh, that's loud. It's time to get into the theatre. The show's about to begin.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Or what do? You bang the staff 3 times.
Yeah, that seems like something
curtain call or whatever.
Yeah. So our topics, there were strange rules about dress, hair, or uniform for activities, cosmetic extensions or treatments causing mayhem, children's concerts or performances, the longest day, what the light reveals, conceals, or exaggerates, props in weird places, and who designed this, as in places with dumb setup or accessibility problems. And I added in unusual acoustics. I thought that fitted rather well with the other things. So this is a little poem about basically the solstice, a very Australian summer solstice called The Longest Sun. The dawn doesn't glisten. It arrives like thunder, the light washing out in a bright early wave to envelop the world in our view. Shadow creatures walk the pavements, curl across the sand and vanish where escape from sun's insistence is most craved. Evenings, like warm baths, run on for hours without darkness, time seeming plentiful as the juice of peaches, and surfaces grow flat and pale, small things easily hidden in the veranda shade of stones, while larger things are stranded in the unfailing spotlight, the silence of the sun waiting impatiently for them to act, like a fidgeting audience pretending to be quiet. Crickets, flies, and the snap of something hard, being shushed by the wind, and all for only the flick of a tail or the swipe of a hand against the unwelcome paparazzi of flies.
Nice.
And a story today is called The Longest Day. Roger flicked on the auditorium lights and patrolled the aisles, doing one last sweep for the flotsam and jetsam of the public coming and going. Satisfied that the marks of the most recent tide of theatre-goers were gone, he made his way through the stairwell door and into the labyrinthine corridors of backstage. The white wall of the hall that led to Green Room 1 had acquired a few more lipsticked kisses, but there wasn't much to be done about those. Once performers decided they were making their mark on history by acquiring the dust and germs of a decades-old piece of plaster, there was little that could be done to prevent such murals from developing. Indeed, Roger supposed it did hold a record of shows and concerts going back a number of years. He harumphed in a reluctant acknowledgement of the wall's significance and unlocked the tightly fitted cupboard that housed this area's cleaning supplies. Something woolly promptly landed on his face. Roger sighed. Precariously arranged as it was, with a door that could only open when the door to the auditorium was closed, this store cupboard was regularly guilty of ejecting cleaning supplies like missiles. People had a tendency to jam things inside and hurriedly slam the cupboard door, wary of the auditorium door opening and sandwiching them in between doorways like human ham. Fair, Roger reasoned. It was probably the mop head that had hit him again. Roger untangled the woolly object from his ID lanyard in the dim light and inspected it. It appeared to be a false beard. Roger gave it a stern look. Costume items sitting beside the carpet cleaner were not acceptable. However had that got into the cleaning cupboard anyway? For Vin, Ashley, Tomo, and the many young people and children involved in stage masters, the day of the summer solstice had begun with the sun at 5:50 a.m. First, all over town, excited young performers had to wake up sleeping adults to secure their lift to the theatre. Of course, many made the mistake of donning their leotards or elaborate costumes as soon as they were out of bed, necessitating multiple repeat undressings and redressings throughout the morning to facilitate toilet stops, cleaning off bits of breakfast, and readjusting items of clothing that had been put on back to front. Vin's morning consisted of loading binders of scripts, boxes of backup microphones and piles of duct tape into her car, driving to the theatre, and then waiting crossly for the duty staff who had clearly arrived, but who were absolutely not unlocking the door for her until 7:30 on the dot. Ashley spent her morning arguing with the driver of the accessible taxi, who was unhappy that Ashley came with speakers, folders of sheet music, microphone stands, and bags of cables in addition to her wheelchair. My colleagues will help unload it at the other end, Ashley snapped, as the driver complained that they were not a removalist.
Oh.
Tomo spent his morning untangling twirling ribbons which had not been rolled up properly after rehearsal and tracking down missing false beards. Nobody liked the beard rule. It was one of those strange club traditions that somehow went unchallenged, despite the fact that none of the current instructors or members would normally let anybody force them to wear anything. Back at the time of its founding, stage masters had been comprised of older men who shared their skills and critique to hone their various stagecrafts. It so happened that all of these gentlemen had been endowed with very impressive beards. Over the years, stage masters had slowly grown into less of a group for performing and workshopping and more of a school for budding performers. As younger members joined, they were routinely strongly encouraged to grow a beard or to don a false one as a mark of their being considered performance ready by the old guard of stage masters. Many years on, only one of the original impressively bearded performers remained, as an elderly president to the organising committee. Nevertheless, the committee had agreed that as a nod to the history of stage masters, performers must continue to have beards. This had grown increasingly absurd as more and more of the performing cast came to be made up of children. Not to mention that Ashley, the current singing instructor and a performer herself, was the kind of person who wore hair extensions and glittery false eyelashes, regardless of other compulsory attire. Since the performing cast of stage masters currently consisted of exactly 0 individuals who actually had beards, the procurement, storage, and care of fake beards had become a task worthy of its own office. However, due to the low budget nature of the organisation, the task instead came under the general heading of wardrobe, which was rather arbitrarily assigned to whoever was mentoring dance at the time, meaning that it was Tomo's job. Tomo neither had a beard nor ever wished to have one, much to the consternation of the beard-proud individuals at the barber shop, where Tomo was obliged to go to collect beard oil and manicure kits. It was generally understood that despite being performance ready, the youngest members of the cast could not be trusted to take home their beards. This was an honour reserved for the very responsible few. And for Tomo, who could have happily done without it. Hence, Tomo's morning, after he'd untangled twirling ribbons and packed large props like furniture and a giant yoga bowl, was spent grooming a number of false beards. It was difficult to groom a beard that was not attached to a face. Tomo had tried using mannequins, but they always tipped over at the first tug of a curl. So now he was resigned to the fate of donning the beards one at a time, tidying, removing and packing, and repeating with the next piece of false facial hair in line. He couldn't help but think that Vin, the acting instructor, would enjoy this all much more than he did, and it really wasn't fair. Perhaps this year was finally the year to rebel against the beard rule. While Tomo was engaged in the battle of the beards, Vin and Ashley were trying to supervise the duty staff to set up wheelchair seating in the auditorium. You would think that this was a routine aspect of preparing for any show, but for something that the staff had to do regularly, it seemed to be very difficult. In order to create spaces for wheelchair users, some other seats had to be removed. This was a sensible way to make the seating adaptable and versatile, Ashley thought. But the removal and replacement of seats ought, therefore, to be easy, right? Apparently not. The duty staff member had already been hit in the nose twice by the seat they were trying to remove, which seemed to be somehow spring-loaded. This had caused them to have a blood nose, so they were now sitting down on one of the stairs that led to the stage with a pile of tissues, and Vin was attempting to take on the seat removal task in their place. The staff member kept trying to tell Vin off about health and safety and training. But Vin, having seen how useful training was unstoppable. Ashley balanced in the aisle, which was a bit too narrow and had to be navigated with one wheel up on the raised edge of one of the seating areas, and passed Vin the tools. Ashley was not in a good mood. Besides currently being on an uncomfortable angle, she was still cross with the taxi driver from earlier. She was pretty sure that some of the professional makeup she'd had done was already sweating off. Tomo was late, something to do with the damned beards, which were ridiculous anyway. The beautiful acrylic nails she'd had applied were already taking a beating from the tools and the edges of seats that kept hitting her hands as she wheeled down the narrow aisles. And shortly, she would have to make her way backstage, which apparently, thanks to the inexplicable presence of 4 steps between the seating aisle and the side of stage doors, meant a long detour back through the foyer, down in a lift, and around the winding labyrinth of backstage corridors. Vin finally heaved the last of the seats out of position, just as Tomo appeared at the back of the theatre, laden with costume bags and the distinctive beard box, which was something like a large briefcase. "Nice of you to join us," Vin commented snidely. She stood up and looked at the tissue-engulfed duty attendant. "Where do these seats go whilst they're out?" The staff member got up, bits of tissue still stuffed up their nose, and began ferrying the removed seats down the unnecessary 4 steps to a doorway near the stage, which presumably led to some sort of storeroom. Tomo gave a costume-weighted guilty shrug. "Sorry, it's the damn beards. Do you know, I had to put on every single one of them to tidy it this morning. I feel like I've played every hipster bloke in a giant ukulele band single-handedly. I haven't even been on stage yet." "How dreadful for you," muttered Ashley. "I really think it's time we staged a rebellion against that silly rule," Tomo went on crossly. "I mean, let's be honest. Stage Masters isn't a historical reenactment group. We're basically a theatre school now. If I have to explain to one more new parent of a younger member that their child will be needing to don a beard to go on stage, I think I might just hide under my bed and never come out." Vin returned from hefting a seat down the steps and rolled her eyes. "I know. If you have any bright ideas about how to convince old Beardy and his committee, I'm all for it after the show. Right now, we have a more immediate problem. She pointed up towards the ceiling of the auditorium. Those high windows are supposed to provide ventilation. She held out her arms and looked down at her sweaty shirt in illustration of how effective the windows were. What they're actually doing is letting a load of natural light in, which means our stage lighting effects aren't going to do much. Given it's the summer solstice, there's no chance whatsoever that it will be dark for the show. Apparently, there are winder handles for blinds at floor level, but they've all broken off. So I'm going to need a load of black paper, duct tape, and a very tall ladder. Tomo and the duty staff steadied a big ladder for Vin's window blacking out mission, while Ashley set off on the road trip that was getting backstage to set up dressing rooms. The lift opened into a gloomily lit hallway, which looked much like every other backstage hallway. It had a strange angular shape at the point where the lift opened, the walls being not quite square and causing Ashley to have to make a 3-point turn. As she began to make her way down the corridor, Ashley saw a small, white, fast-moving, shaggy something barreling towards her out of the gloom. It held a small, dark, shaggy something in its mouth. Fortunately, Ashley was very familiar with this creature and was not too much alarmed. "Spotlight, why are you inside already?" she demanded, reaching down to catch the wriggling terrier and attempting to prise open his jaws. "Is that Liz's beard? You naughty dog." Liz, a teenage protege of Vin's and performer of special acrobatic acts featuring Spotlight the dog, appeared in the hallway, out of breath. "Sorry, Ashley," she panted. "Spotlight stole my beard." She wrinkled her nose. "Not that I'd mind if it went missing." Ashley picked up the dog and held up the now rather slobbery beard. "So I see. Why are you two back here already? What's your plan for Spot's toilet breaks?" Liz retrieved the dog from Ashley's arms, then reluctantly reclaimed the beard, wiping it off on her clown trousers. "Please don't call him Spot, Ashley. He's not a children's book character." She tucked Spotlight under her arm. "Spotlight has been learning to use the human toilet." She walked further down the hall to where Ashley now saw there was a lit-up accessible toilet sign and pressed a button on the wall. The door to the toilet slid open slowly with a loud "mm," and then a robotic voice said, "The toilet door is open." "Oh, great," groaned Ashley. "If my day so far is any indication of our luck, that'll be audible from the stage." She convinced Liz that it might be wise to station herself in Spotlight near one of the backstage exits and use a more traditional toilet for cast members of the canine persuasion. When Ashley and Liz opened the back door, an excited crowd of children and parents, and other teens and university students who were pretending not to be excited, was waiting. Spotlight ran outside and jumped on everybody's costumes. "You're all bright and early," Ashley commented, her tone indicating that they were all far too early. The crowd seemed unconcerned. "Vin said we had to get face paint and beards done by someone older before the run-through," explained Albie, a very serious child who seemed all the more comically so because he'd already attempted to don his own beard. Ashley sighed. "Right, everyone into green room 2, and we'll do some vocal warm-ups while we sort our faces out." Everyone came inside, including the parents of the younger members, who Ashley wasn't quite sure how to dismiss politely. They crowded into green room 2, and soon the space was filled with an intolerably loud buzz of voices. Young Albie's tones could be heard over the rest. "The beards are traditional." "Yeah, but why?" complained Wilma, another younger performer. "We're not doing the same sort of show as the old stage masters. Albie, who must have been the only member of the current troupe who really believed in the beards, despite his young age, was getting very put out. Ashley thought she'd better give them something else to do before a fight broke out. The beards, paints and costume additions, she realised, were still with Tomo. Right, senior stage associates, can some of you please go through to the auditorium and collect all the wardrobe stuff from Tomo so we can make a start on faces? Everyone else doing sirens on the count of 3. Ready? 1. Ow! Ashley, Spotlight's taken my top hat. Ashley rolled her eyes. Out in the auditorium, it was finally dark, and Tomo was trying to find a light switch so that Vin would be able to get down from the ladder. The theatre staff had disappeared up into the lighting box to test out the effects listed in Vin's notes. Just then, the side stage door opened and the silhouettes of 5 senior performers came in, evidently led by Liz, since Spotlight the dog was there, carrying somebody's top hat in his mouth. Liz squinted out into the shadowy auditorium. Hello, is Tomo in here? Tomo found a light switch, and suddenly everyone was shielding their eyes, no better able to see than before. Yep, answered Tomo, coming down the aisle. What's up? We need all the beards for the juniors, Liz sighed, and also the face paints and the other accessories and all that. Tomo got the bags and boxes from where he'd dumped them in one of the rows of seats. 5 of you needed to come to get the stuff, he challenged, handing each of them a few bits to carry. We're not octopi like you are, remarked one of the older performers. Tomo laughed. Okay, well listen. He lowered his voice conspiratorially. Speaking of the beards, want to help stage a stage master's revolution? Then he frowned and tilted his head. Is there an alarm going off? Liz listened. Oh, no, don't worry. That's just everyone in Green Room 2 doing sirens. She looked at Tomo intently. But tell us the other thing. Tomo was looking at the stage door in concern. You mean to say we can hear Green Room 2 from the auditorium? The senior associates sidled back into the green room as Ashley was leading a round of counting scales, and they all started moving chairs to face younger performers. Ashley quickly moved to face Albie, who was the only child who would not squirm, and who could be trusted to behave as though getting face paint and a beard applied was an extremely serious and important business. Liz and Bulma scooted up beside them. So, message from Tomo, Liz murmured, grinning. He wants me to do what? Ashley exclaimed when Liz had finished explaining. It's just the words, Liz replied in what she obviously thought was a reassuring tone. We'll be singing the same parts. Ashley shook her head in dismay. But how are we going to get the juniors singing the new words? Little Albie pouted at them. I like my beard. Don't take away my Socrates beard, he wailed. Liz patted him on the shoulder. You still get to wear it for most of the show, Albie. And maybe next year you can play the part of someone from ancient Greece, and then you can still have a beard as part of your costume. Ashley nodded, frowning as she tried to keep her acrylic nails out of the face paint. That's if we can even pull this plan off, she remarked. Soon it was time to begin the run-through. Ashley, who had finally managed to affix her own beard around her hair extensions, sat in the wings, furiously writing out pages of new lyrics, while most of the cast ran through a group dance number with Tomo. The theatre staff were in the lighting box, listening to feedback from Vin via a walkie-talkie. Wilma, where are you? It's your solo, Tomo called, automatically going to centre stage to fill in. I'm scared, Wilma replied, sidling into a darkened corner of the stage. Wilma, there's no one out here yet. Just pretend it's practice. Tomo started doing the solo, designed for a much smaller, less experienced dancer. Spotlight, called Vin into the walkie-talkie. Spotlight the dog ran onto the stage, a pair of stripy tights in his mouth, and ran in circles around Tomo. Albie edged forward. I can do the solo. Tomo glanced at him, still trying to dance around the dog. No, Albie, you don't know this part of the dance, do you? If in doubt, improvise, sang Albie, starting to imitate Tomo's moves as best he could. Vin cackled from the floor. Well done remembering one of the golden rules, Albie, she told him. But we don't take over other people's parts in the show unless we're asked, do we? She vaulted up onto the stage. Wilma, how about you come and just give it a go now? Otherwise you won't know what it feels like, will you? She ducked between other cast members, looking for the child. Wilma had sat down by the curtain and appeared to be unravelling the ribbon hem of her tunic. Vin sighed. Wilma, I saw your solo at the last rehearsal, and I think you must have had to practice really hard to learn some of those tricks. No one else can do those yet. I know Albie would like to fill in for the solo, but do you think he can do the steps that you do? No, Wilma replied, looking a little bit smug. Did you watch the video of the rehearsal? Vin asked her. Yes. Was it good, do you reckon? Wilma nodded. And would it be as good without your solo in it? Or was that like one of the coolest parts? Wilma shrugged and stood up. What if I fall off the stage? Vin frowned. That won't happen, Wilma. Look, there are lots of people kneeling down at the front. You just stay behind them. She gave Wilma a little push out towards Tomo, then spoke into the walkie-talkie. Can we rewind to 1 minute 10, please? Spotlight on centre stage. Spotlight the dog ran up to her and jumped up at her knees. Liz, you need to put the dog somewhere secure until it's his turn on stage. Liz scurried over and took Spotlight by the collar. Side of stage. Ashley was on page 4 out of 15 copies of replacement lyrics and was trying not to wonder whether Vin had written any new script to go with them. Her nice new nails really weren't helping with the handwriting. Hold on, not that red colour, Vin was saying into the walkie-talkie. They're all disappearing into the curtain. Yes, that's better, thank you. Okay, can we bring the white curtain down here and put the stone wall texture lights on that, please? Kids, don't stand so far back. Watch out for the other curtain coming down. Liz, I can see Spotlight as a shadow puppet on the light projection. Where is he? Well, can you put him somewhere else, please? Ashley shook her head and tried to focus until it was time for the first song. A child approached her. Ashley, I can't find my horse. Ashley blinked. Your horse? I'm King Arthur and I'm supposed to come in on a horse. Ashley remembered the pretend horses on wheels from rehearsal. Whose job had it been to pack those? She frowned. Okay, well. She looked around for a suitable replacement prop. The toilet door is open, came the now familiar automated voice from backstage. We can hear that out here, yelled Vin. Ah, came a yell from the corridor. Ashley set off in the direction of the toilet commotion, the King Arthur child in tow. They found the door to the toilet wildly opening and closing, and a wailing coming from within, while the door kept trying to announce its position and cutting itself off. Door. What's going on here? Demanded Ashley, at a loss for what she could actually do to stop the door. "The horse is jammed in the door," came the anxious voice of one of the seniors. "The horse prop that is supposed to be for King Arthur?" asked Ashley in disbelief. "Yeah, I was bringing it side stage, but I needed the toilet on the way." Ashley rolled her eyes. "So you took it in the toilet with you?" She looked at the King Arthur child. "Well, at least we found your horse." She considered the conundrum of the senior performer trapped in the loo. "I think you might have to take the horse apart. Can you tip it on its side?" There was a scuffle inside the toilet and the sound of a few things being hit with other things. And then the door finally closed entirely. "The toilet door is closed," announced the toilet helpfully. Senior performer and horse retrieved, Ashley and the child playing King Arthur made their way back to the stage, where Vin and Tomo were giving a lecture about white underwear, which apparently glowed in the stage lights. All too soon, they were out of time for further running through, and everyone was hustled backstage again for a very quiet briefing about the beard revolt and a whispered practice. A strange thing happened as they began to hear the murmur of the audience arriving. Wilma went from pale and concerned to bouncing with excitement. Everyone got very serious about checking their beards. And Albie grew increasingly quiet, along with Spotlight, who was sitting by Liz on the floor where she was stretching and not even trying to steal any part of her outfit. Their show opened with the welcome song, which everybody had some kind of introductory part in. Vin, Tomo, and Ashley were all on and off the stage during this number themselves, and could only hope that any laughter they heard from the audience was directed at the actions on stage of those who were supposed to be amusing. After the song, some of the seniors went on to do a dance number with blue ribbons, where they formed a kind of spider's web, and Vin and Ashley hurriedly started head counting to check that the younger members of the troupe were where they ought to be. Tomo remained side stage to support the dancers, marking through the routine on the spot. "Where are Albie and Wilma?" worried Ashley and Vin at the same time. They both started whispering to other cast members, inquiring as quietly as possible whether anyone knew where the two children were. Liz waved at them from across the wings. "I can see them," she hissed. "They've gone behind the curtain." Oh no. Vin edged forward to stand in line with Liz and spied the two escapees sitting between the red curtain and the white projector curtain, clearly thinking they were hidden from view, whilst in fact their enormous silhouettes were being projected onto the backdrop along with the set. As Vin looked on in horror, Wilma reached out and pulled off Albie's beard, and Albie lunged for it back, a fierce tug of war ensuing. This was to the delight of the audience, who were definitely no longer watching the spider dance with any enthusiasm. This may have been, in hindsight, a good thing, as just then the stage lights went to a dramatic speckled blue water pattern, which Vin had thought sounded great on paper. Unfortunately, the dancers' blue ribbons became very hard to see under this camouflage, both for the audience, who saw the desired gossamer web-like glimmer, and for the dancers themselves, who began to trip and get tangled in their own ribbon web. "Show must go on," whispered Liz, raising her eyebrows. "Albie, Wilma," hissed Vin, kneeling down next to the curtain. "They can see you." Wilma frowned, disbelieving. "Crawl off like spiders," Vin hissed, demonstrating fairly poorly. Wilma got up and did a true dancer's impression of a spider, even darting back and forth after the shadows of the dancers on stage before scooting out to meet Vin in the wings. Albie said, The show must go on, and ducked under the projector curtain onto the stage, where he did a much less convincing spider impression through the older dancers before crawling into the wings. Either the dancers managed to redeem the performance pretty effectively, or the audience were just very taken with Wilma and Albie, because there was quite thunderous applause when the number ended. Next was the Shakespearean excerpt in which Albie was supposed to do his main speech. Vin gave him a very fast, whispered pep talk. Are you ready? Do you remember your lines after all that? Albie nodded calmly, strode out onto the stage, and stopped, staring out wide-eyed. Whilst being a spider, he evidently had not taken stock of the full on-stage experience. All the world's a stage, hissed the senior, giving prompts. Albie blinked. Oh, he declared, I can't see the people. The audience laughed, and Vin put a hand to her face. She knew what Albie meant. The spotlight was blinding him when he'd expected to be able to see the waiting audience. They should have run him through with the stage lights on. The audience's laughter, however, seemed to alert Albie to the fact that they were really out there. He paced, and the spotlight, thankfully, dutifully followed. Oh, how the brightest lights can be deceiving, he said. Vin and the prompter glanced at one another. This could be very bad or very good. For light that is everywhere can hide things too. We mortals think that in the light we cannot hide, and yet, when all is lit, so much is missed, flattened into matching blank page brightness. Contrast lost is blindness. You and I are not alike, but in the endless day, it can seem so. Rub out our differences, our faces are the same, without the detail. So if you need to ask, who am I? Step into the shadows with me. But perhaps if you wish to find something in common, stand in the light and you will see. The audience applauded this enthusiastically. Vin could tell that they were all trying to work out what play it was from. What was that? She asked Albie as he came off stage. Albie spread his hands. If in doubt, improvise, he told her. I forgot what I was supposed to say. Liz tugged him out of the way so the next group could get on stage. Albie, I don't think you need to play a philosopher in next year's show, she said, kneeling down to strap on Spotlight's sparkly coat. Albie folded his arms indignantly. What? Why? Liz laughed. Because I think you're going to grow up to be a philosopher. Albie grinned. Soon it was time for the finale. Nervously, Ashley passed every second performer a sheet of new lyrics. Vin went on stage with one of the senior associates, named Dane, who had donned an extra magnificent beard for the occasion. Hello, I'm Alf Middlebrook, and I'm a very famous actor, declared Dane. I founded Stage Masters with my friends Rendell, Albert, and Matteo, so that we could entertain audiences like you for generations to come. They all had great beards, just like mine. Well, not quite as good, only I could earn the title of Old Beardy. But pretty good all the same. Our beards were so distinctive that when new people wanted to join our troupe, we didn't like to let them in unless they had beards too. Vin stepped forward and tapped the youth on the shoulder, her beard removed and stashed in her pocket. Excuse me, sir, I really like your show. I can do juggling and acrobatics, and I can sing, and I know lots of famous monologues. Can I join your act? Dane folded his arms, entrapping the magnificent beard. No, you do not have a beard. Our troupe has beards, and no one shall join without one. Vin acted dejected. walked away a few paces, and made a show of hurriedly putting her fake beard on. The audience laughed. Vin glanced dramatically over her shoulder, then traipsed back to Dane and tapped him on the shoulder again. "Excuse me, sir. I have a beard now. Now can I join your act?" Replied Dane. "Well, you'd better show me what you can do." Vin produced some juggling balls from her pockets and began to do juggling tricks. Next, they were joined on stage by the small boy who'd played King Arthur earlier, also devoid of his beard. The boy approached, asked to join, got turned down for not having a beard, donned a comical yellow wool one, and was allowed to start doing a mime act with a pretend dog on a stick. They carried on this way until they had quite small children with princess-like locks and Ashley with her glittery false eyelashes, all wearing fake beards and performing various stage skills, and members of the cast who looked more as though they might have had natural beards otherwise were wearing beards made of tinsel or aluminium foil. And that's how my troupe of performers grew and grew in both their skills and their beards, Dane announced, stepping proudly to centre stage. And to this day, I'm still in charge, even though I don't always perform, which is why the stage masters are still known for wearing their beards, so they can all look just as proud and wise as I did on stage. Because without me, stage masters wouldn't exist. And look what a wonderful, talented lot they are. He spread his arms, and the remaining seniors ushered the rest of the cast onto the stage, where they launched into the very recently penned Ode to Old Beardy. Some of the children did sing parts of the old lyrics, so that the song got a little confused at times and seemed to say things like, "Step into the sunshine, beards." But on the whole, Ashley was pleased with how the cast maintained their harmonies and felt that it was a pretty good anthem for something hurriedly scribbled side of stage. Everyone took their bows, and then Ashley went to the front and took the MC microphone. On behalf of all the performing members of Stage Masters, I'd like to invite our founder, Alf, or Old Beardy, as he's affectionately known, to come to the stage and speak to us. The cast are making a request of Alf tonight, which is that we might be released from the beard rule. I mean, no matter how hard we try, our beards will never be as magnificent as his. There was some laughter at this. But we're not about to forget that the beards are a part of the rich history of Stage Masters. So, if Alf will agree that we don't have to wear beards for every performance, we promise that this finale, chronicling the story of the Stage Masters and their beards, will always be performed in honour of Old Beardy and our roots. The cast and the audience were clapping, but as Ashley smiled and looked around, she couldn't see Old Beardy coming to the stage. She glanced up at Tomo. "Is he coming?" Tomo peered side stage. "He definitely got up and went through the stage door. I think he might be lost in the backstage warren." Then Ashley heard a familiar sound. "The toilet door is open," came the now well-known robot voice. "Oh," said Ashley. "Well, shall we sing the Ode to Old Beardy once more and see if we can summon him?" "Yes," shouted someone in the audience. "Encore!" And everyone sang the song again. During this repeat rendition, Ashley noticed that the cast members kept ducking off stage and returning beardless. She shrugged to herself. With any luck, it wouldn't really matter. There was a rousing speech from Alf, congratulating them all on their performance, and indeed agreeing to bring an end to the beard rule. After all, it was true, no one else would ever have a beard as impressive as his. Then everyone poured backstage, nearly all the beards, having by now somehow vanished. They searched for missing shoes, bags, and props, and Spotlight ran around getting underfoot with most of the missing items in his mouth. When everyone had all, or at least everything they remembered having, of their stuff, The cast emerged out of the back doors of the theatre into the still sunny car park, where family and friends greeted them with delight. Vin squinted in the sunlight at the beard box in Tomo's hands, which was empty. "What has everyone done with their beards?" she asked. Tomo grinned. "They've been hiding the damn things all over the theatre. The caretaker's going to be so confused." Vin laughed. "Oh, I think we should join in." She looked at Ashley. "Why haven't you taken yours off?" Ashley grimaced. "I can't. It's stuck to my hair extensions. And I can't undo the knots." She waved her nails at them. Tomo snickered. "Want to take a selfie?" Roger ran the vacuum cleaner over Green Room 2 and restacked some chairs that were out of place. Whoever the group were who had performed last night, they were really quite tidy. This room would have been spotless if it weren't for the chairs and something curly hanging out of an overhead cupboard. Roger went to investigate. Performers could get very worked up if they lost their wigs. They'd be on the phone to the theatre, all in a panic. He opened the door, and out fell 3 more false beards. Beards! Who were these people? Roger examined them. He looked in the green room mirror, and he put one on. Funny, he rather liked it. It made him feel quite magnificent, imposing, like an actor in his own right, like the kind of chap who could start up a little troupe of performers.
Oh.
Maybe it was time for Roger to take a more active part in the theatre that he knew so well.
Oh, beautiful. It's a great story.
It's a bit timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly.
Oh, that's lovely. I loved Albie's speech, his alleged improvised speech. Oh my God. That's beautiful. That's worth a little copy of that to go with the story time. Yeah, just beautiful.
And the dog was excellent.
And what a good name for a dog. Spotlight.
Spotlight.
Spotlight, centre stage. I like that. Oh, yeah, that was great. And it's really funny because one of the things I've put back for the theatre is...
Oh, juggling balls.
Yeah, which, that would be a really good way to show ineptitude because I cannot juggle.
Dead easy. I don't know what you're
I
worried
don't
about.
juggle.
Yeah.
They tried to get us to learn. So it was one of the things on Quest Camp when I was on Quest Camp High School. One of the teachers could juggle and sort of suggest that everyone could learn anything they wanted, and we should all try and learn new skills and things. And some of us were trying to learn to juggle. I did the exercises every day studiously for about a week and a half, and I was still just sort of swapping too.
Yeah.
Any requests for our January edition?
Well, I reckon coming out of that last comment you made, that you can learn anything you want to thing would be great.
Okay.
It probably is true, but it doesn't feel like it, does it? Those things you think, I'm useless at this, I'm useless.
Yeah.
I was going to say, not me personally, but embarrassing yourself at a work event.
I like some of the inspiration, Shana.
Beth, was decorations a request, or were you adding to saying that Timmins' decorations are great?
Illuminations.
Decorations, illuminations.
Actually,
And also, this is a dedication to Lloyd being inconspicuous.
well, because he was in the background.
Being inconspicuous. And what, we could have not worn our collars, and we could have been stage hands, couldn't we? Or how they're usually all in black.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
You could have gone on and off and brought chairs and things in and out and
That's right.
pretended you were doing the change of set.
Not against the red or the white curtain. That would have been wrong. Yeah. So you think I'm going to blend in.
You assume that you blend in black.
Yeah,
Mm.
because there'll be black legs to the curtains of it. If they were red and white, you'd be in trouble. And I'll tell you what, the audible green room and toilet thing is not beyond the realms of possibility either. Because one of the school productions I was involved in, I was a stage manager, and it was held in the school hall, which had a little stage, and it did have an under thing, and it had a back door, and the kids were in some other building.
Oh, that to come across and come
And
in the
they
door.
had to
Yes.
come in the door, and there were walkie-talkies and all that.
Yes.
Oh my God, we're so
I've been in one like that. That's I can't remember that happened. And they didn't really have, they had like a backstage room, you know, suitable for a class of drama students or whatever, not for, you know, an entire dance school. So people had to go and be in other rooms and be told, you know, but I don't think we had walkie-talkies, we had runners. So some senior had to like run across and say, you know, it's two more items before yours, and then the teacher would bring the class across.
I think we could have more spiders in the next story.
On some spiders.
Because spiders are a thing, you know. So many people have gone.
What about a bloody a centipede? I had a centipede in the house the other day.
Oh, I don't like them.
Thing like it's like this long.
They're
and it's
horrible,
black.
aren't they?
How do you get rid of this? Would be a good line. How did your dad get rid of the
Yes, so he put a lunchbox on top of it, and then a bit of cardboard.
Oh yeah.
Underneath, like, and then flipped it over and then put the lid of the lunchbox on. So then he's walking around with this centipede
in a box.
Complicated timetables.
Complicated timetables. Did you have a problem with the train recently or something?
Yeah, trying to get from point A to point B, involving more than one form of public transport.
Okay.
Transfer at this point to bus 27A, which will take you to stop 34-7 across the road from the Darlington train station, where you catch the 5:37 to Cheltenham, transferring at Southampton for the London Express.
How did you do your priest collars?
Oh, okay. So I made them this afternoon. So yeah, that's another nice thing. Remnants, that'd be a good topic. Because I had a couple. I have a tiny bit of stiff as a board. Well, that was a quiet little group, but it was a lovely story. Really loved it.
Yeah, well, hopefully everyone who hasn't been here live will enjoy it on YouTube
I'm
later.
sure they
and we've got a nice collection of topics for next time. But yeah, absolutely put more ideas in the chat if you've got more requests, or anything else that you want me to cover in the afterword of the book that I'm finishing up, because at the moment I've only got the one question from you about the move, and how that's affected writing, so I might adapt that heading if there aren't any other sort of things people would like to hear about. But if there's anything that anyone watching retrospectively or that you think of, feel free to pop that in one of the chats. And should I check the January date?
Do check the date. I meant to ask.
It will be the 8th, so quite an early one.
See you later.
Yeah.
See you later.